Jesus is such an interesting character. He's not the most handsome man that ever lived. Neither is he the most richest man that ever lived. Nor is he the most charismatic man that ever lived. He's not even the most talented or gifted or the most eloquent man that has ever lived. But he's the only man that has won the hearts of most women since the time he was born up to now. For 2,000 years, Jesus Christ has caused many women to fall in love with him more than any other man can ever dream of. What was so special about Jesus? What did he ever do to cause women to throng after him? Because of Jesus, many women have sacrificed their own life for him. Many women have sacrificed their marriage for Jesus. Many women have sacrificed the possibility of giving birth and having children for Jesus. Many women have sacrificed their gifts and their lives and their properties for Jesus. What is so special about him? Because in the contest of love between a man and a woman, usually it is the man that sacrifices and it is the woman that receives. But Jesus did something for women, and ever since that 33-year carpenter died, since then, the whole history has never been the same, because every generation, in every season, in every time, some women from different regions, from different countries, different race, different tribes, literate, ignorant, have fallen in love with him, and they have lived their life to please him. And so today I want to share some 2 or 3 reasons why I believe that Jesus Christ is the only man that has had the most impact on women through history. First of all, let us go back to before even Jesus was born. Jesus was a Jew. He was born in Israel. He was born into a Jewish family, in a Jewish context, in a Jewish society. And in those days, in a Jewish society, when the genealogy of a person is being made, a genealogy is, trying to trace a person back to their forefathers. Usually when a genealogy is being made, there's no mention of women in the genealogy. But in Jesus's case, it's different. In Matthew chapter 1, when the writer of the Matthew, which is the Apostle Matthew, was trying to give a genealogy of Jesus, we see that he mentions 4 women in the genealogy of Jesus. The first woman that was mentioned in the Matthew chapter 1 is Tamar, who slept with his father-in-law. The second woman that was mentioned is Rahab, who was a prostitute in Jericho. The third woman is, Ruth, who was a Moabite, a stranger, an outcast from Israel. The fourth woman that was mentioned is Bathsheba, who cheated on his husband with King David. These women are notoriously known for doing something that society abhors or hates, or society rejects. Yet for some reason, even in his genealogy, before he comes to the face of the earth, women who naturally would have been outcasted, would have been dejected, were included in such a beautiful story even before this man comes on the face of the earth. And when Jesus was born and he grew up to become a rabbi, his ministry challenged the status quo in the known Jewish society at that time, because it was unheard of that a rabbi would include women in his ministry. And Jesus did not just include women into his ministry. In fact, the longest conversation that we have of Jesus, between Jesus and another person, is in John chapter 4, when Jesus spends time talking to a woman who has had failures in her marriage life. This is probably one woman that in society she didn't have any respect, she didn't have any class, she didn't have any social rate that she was nowhere. She was not somebody that anybody would have time for. Yet Jesus spends a lot of time with this woman, having an intimate conversation with her. And when disciples come back and they see Jesus talking with this woman, they are shocked, because it was unheard of that a rabbi would sit alone with a woman and have discussion with a woman. And that is the first impact that I believe that Jesus has on women. You see, in those days, it was so easy to reject a woman because of something she did or something she didn't do. But when Jesus came into the scene, she changed that. She actually cared for women in a different way. She didn't judge women by their mistakes. And so when the woman that had the issue of blood and everybody was rejecting her, and everybody didn't want to get close to her. When she touched Jesus, she was trembling because she knew that the rabbi at that time would command that she be stoned. Yet Jesus looks at her and calls her my daughter. Jesus introduced a new affection, a new love for women who don't have any respect in society. He brings this different kind of love. He loves them differently, and that kind of love that they receive changes them radically, because in John chapter 4, this woman that receives this kind of love from Jesus goes back into Samaria and begins to preach about Jesus. She becomes the first evangelist that was dispatched, the first apostle, the first person to ever organize a crusade. And it's all because of the attention that Jesus gave her. I believe that no woman, although since the creation of the universe, there's not be a man that has loved and cared for women like Jesus did. Beyond that, Jesus also introduced a different orientation and perspective in terms of how men see women, because in the known world at that time, the Jewish culture, it was impossible, or it was an abomination for a woman to be taught the Torah. We've heard popular or infamous quotes by certain Jewish rabbi, like it is better for the Torah, which is the Bible, the Old Testament, to be burnt than to be taught to a woman, because the concept that the woman should be taught the Torah was just ludicrous. But Jesus did not just include women into his ministry, he taught women. He actually brought women into his space and actually challenged the society, the status quo at that time, that a woman's value is not just giving birth, it's not just getting married, but that a woman should also be included in the education system. And that's what we see in the Bible, that the Bible says Jesus comes into Martha and Mary's house, and Martha is so busy working because she dare not come and sit where the men are sitting and having a discussion about the scriptures. She's just doing what the normal woman would do: go to the kitchen, prepare some food, and bring it to the men. When they eat, you go back, you wait for when they are finished, you come and take it. But Mary, so courageous, so daring, she decides to sit at the feet of Jesus and listen to what Jesus is saying. Listen to Jesus expound and teach on the scriptures. And Mary sits down and is hearing. And Martha comes to see Mary sitting down, and she's so shocked. Mary, didn't our mother teach you well that you don't sit among men when they're talking about scriptures? And Jesus looks at Martha and says, Martha, you are worried about so many things. Mary has found the best. What was Jesus saying? Jesus was actually saying it is okay for a woman to be taught. It is okay for a woman to be included in education. And this concept was not only exclusive to the Jewish. In the Greek society, in the Roman society, it was unheard of. It was abominable for a Roman lady to be taught. Women were not included in academia. They were not taught. They were not given the privilege of education. But do you know, because of what Jesus did, the apostles, when Jesus died, began to teach that a woman's value is not just in giving birth, that a woman can also be taught, a woman can also be cared for. And so everywhere the gospel went, people started telling women that they can also go to education. In Africa, when Christianity was introduced to Africa, the concept that a woman was supposed to be confined to the kitchen was changed. Women were being taken to education. In Asia, in Europe, in every region, the first woman to ever receive a bachelor's degree in Oxford University is Dorothy Sayers, and she did that because of what Jesus did. She was so inspired by the story of Mary that Jesus included Mary within the enclave, or within the circle of academia that she wanted to study. The first book that was ever written by a woman was written by the mystic Julian of Norwich, and she shared the title of the book is The 16th Revelation on Divine Love. She was writing a book about the man that loved her in a way that no man could ever love her. And the amazing thing that surprises me, see, the whole Christianity is centered on the resurrection of Jesus. If Jesus did not resurrect, then the whole Christianity is a shambles. But Jesus decided to trust the greatest testimony in history in the hands of a woman. When Jesus resurrected, he could have showed himself to Peter, to John, and yet for some reason Jesus decides to reveal himself through the woman. And when the woman saw Jesus and they rushed to go and tell the disciples don't believe it, because they say, how can we believe it? Because in ancient Israel at that time, the testimony of a woman was not regarded. But Jesus decided to reveal himself, the greatest testimony. He trusted it in the hands of a woman, telling us that we ought to see women for who they are. Do you know that women are more stronger emotionally than men? When Jesus was captured and was going to be crucified, all the men left. The strong men, they ran away because they couldn't handle the thought and the sight of seeing Jesus crucified. But the women stood there. Women might not be stronger in terms of their physical composition, because when you look at the human biology or the composition of the human body, men are stronger. Men have a higher density in terms of bones and more muscles than women do. But women have more compassion. The strength of a woman is in the ability to show compassion. And that is why all this move that women want to be strong as men and women want to compete with men, the beauty of a woman is not in her action, is not in her strength, in her muscles, but in the ability to show compassion, because it is that compassion that was displayed at the point of crucifixion. I believe that every single day, every single time, more and more women are falling in love with Jesus, because he comes into their life and he doesn't judge them. When society has rejected these women, Jesus looks upon them and calls them daughter. If you're a woman today and maybe you find yourself rejected and outcast, you don't feel valued, I want to use this opportunity to tell you that Jesus sees value in you. And when you look at him and tell him to come to you, he will come to you. And the value that he placed in you will come forth. Thank you for watching this video. Bye.